Hello, everybody. This is Dread from Epic Builds. In today's video, we're going to showcase Apathy's mod Dark Strike Void Knight, a build built around being as fast as possible while also being able to clear endgame proficiently. Before we get into the video, if you are enjoying the content, I'd suggest liking and commenting on the video, as that's the best way to tell YouTube that I am doing a good job. This build was an absolute blast to play with. The insane 130% increased movement speed made farming monoliths an absolute breeze, allowing us to get to 200 plus corruption in only a few hours. If you don't know how I'm achieving this, I am utilizing Dark Striders. These give us a 1% increased movement speed per 5 melee flat void buff. This is only global flat void, meaning temporary buffs like Eternal Eclipse does not work. Buffs that do work are like the base passives on Void Knight, Sigils of Hope, and any melee flat void on our weapons. The weapon in question is Apathy's Maw. This is the largest amount of melee flat void on a single weapon in patch 8.3. This weapon, when max rolled, gives us about 24% increased movement speed in total. That's almost a whole pair of boots or 3 silver rings. This much movement speed combined with our main skill, Erasing Strike, turns our character into a clear speed machine. So to break down the combo we are using for maximum single target damage, we first cast Abyssal Echoes. Void Supremacy gives us 80% more damage with our next Erasing Strike against slowed targets, which Echoes applies for us. We also get a buff for self-casting echoes called Nether Coating, which is important for later. The next step is to use Void Cleave twice. Obliterator allows our next Erasing Strike critically strike for free, essentially allowing us to ignore crit chance entirely. Note that this only applies to the next Erasing Strike, meaning Void Knight's echoes do not crit as well, making it inefficient to invest into the VK Echo nodes, so we drop all of those nodes. This will also apply more Time Rot stats thanks to Warp Decay, and also shred Void resistance thanks to Flurrying Strikes. All of this combines together to give us a huge Erasing Strike hit. The reason why we hit with Void Cleave twice is so we can apply 12 Time Rot stacks before we hit with Erasing Strike, so we can benefit from Final Hour. We also run a small amount of Time Rot chance in the passive tree as well, so we make sure we always hit our cap of 12. Implements of Destruction is very strong for us, as it meshes well with our melee flat void stacking. Moments Stolen let us proc haste on kill, allowing us to push our movement speed even further. Now we don't have to cast all of this to clear packs in the Monolith of Fate. Otherwise, this build would be super clunky to play. But for bigger bosses like Oribus and the Timeline bosses, it does give us the best DPS output. My largest crit so far has been a 219,000 crit on a 196 corruption Oribus, translating to about 1.5 million on the target dummy. This is a lot, especially since we're not using echoes or a better weapon, i.e. the Eternal Eclipse. For clearing Monolith packs, you can just use Void Cleave or Erasing Strike, and add an Abyssal Echo before if it is a Tenkiei rare or a boss, and that works completely fine. We also run Sigils of Hope for even more melee flat void thanks to Sigils of Despair, and we also run Devouring Orb for Abyssal Rush, another 20% increased movement speed. To sustain Sigils, we run the On Kill node, Last Wish, and also a bit of mana regen so we can use them before boss fights. Important passives in the tree include Patient Doom for the 150% increased damage, Singular Purpose for the 100% increased void damage, which is a majority of our damages is void, and Dread for 120% increased void damage and 15% movement speed. For uniques, I run a Doom package of an Apathy's Maw and 2 Siphons of Anguish for a total of about 50% increased damage taken for enemies at max 4 Doom stacks, and this also gives us all of our leech. Siphons also have the neat benefit of having a lot of movement speed on them as well. All three of these drop from Oribus, and Apathy drops from Empowered Oribus only. Just as a heads up, you can actually play this build without Apathy's Maw. You can just run a Hollow Blade with Crafted Melee Void Flat instead, and that will carry you until you get an Apathy's Maw. We of course run a pair of Dark Striders, as that enables this build to be viable. The +1 to Void Cleave charge becomes essential for our endgame DPS combo, as we have to hit with Void Cleave twice, so we hit the max of 12 Time Rot stacks. So having that random stat makes the whole build function. Kind of funny how just one line of text can enable an entire archetype. For gearing, you want to focus on mana regen, critical strike multiplier, health/hybrid health, +2 to your racing strike, as the tree is pretty node intensive, strength, as this gives you a global 4% increased damage, scaling our void damage and fizz damage from Apathy's Maw at the same time. A finished build planner will be in the description for you to look at the gearing more in depth. For idols, our best in slot is an idol with vitality and increased melee void damage. We then get the two 3x1 increased melee void damage idols and two hybrid HP idols. Uniques I would recommend for the build are a pair of Ravenous Voids, as the DR will make you feel much tankier overall. It is a rare drop from Elder Gaspar from the last rune, or from Echo set/unique glove rewards from Ending the Storm. Overall, I rate this build as a success, as we have plenty of damage and clear for endgame, enough movement speed to make blessing/unique farming to be enjoyable, while also just being tanky enough to not be terrible to play. We're a Void Knight after all, and they are generally regarded as glass cannons of the Sentinel class. I pushed it to a total of 200 corruption and could probably get to about 300 corruption with some investment. That's about when you need to be to drop omnises, and you can also have 5 blessing choices instead of just 4, so 200 corruption is the nice little sweet spot. Thank you so much for coming this far in the video. If you haven't already, I'd suggest following me on Twitch as well, as these builds take a long time to create sometimes, and I stream most of it, so you guys can get an idea of how the build creation process goes. It's also the best way to get technical support for the builds I create, as it's a live event. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at. This has been Dread from Epic Builds, and I'm off to create more builds.